Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast, where we believe there is a produce mom in all of us. I'm Lori Taylor, founder and CEO of the Produce Moms. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the U.S. And today, my team and I are fully focused on inspiring people to eat more fruits and vegetables. This show is just one of the ways that we hope to inspire you and your family to eat more produce and live a better life. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, join our community of almost 40,000 in all 50 states and over 30 countries by visiting theproducemoms.com/subscribe. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks for being here. Enjoy today's show. Welcome back, everyone. This is the Produce Moms Podcast. This is my favorite part of my job. My name is Lori Taylor. I'm the founder of the Produce Moms. And the reason I love this show is because we share the most amazing stories that are making the produce department a better place and the world a better place as well. And today's show is no exception. We are welcoming Jesse Appleman. He is the head of fresh goods for Fair Trade USA. And we are welcoming back to the show Lori Castillo. She is the vice president of marketing for NatureSweet. Today, we are celebrating because your favorite tomatoes, NatureSweet, they have just partnered with Fair Trade USA. And that means there's even more goodness behind those wonderful tomatoes that we all love. And we're going to really dive into that today. Talk about their partnership, talk about where moms like us are going to be able to find these fair trade tomatoes on shelf, and really just the purpose behind it, why it's so important for these organizations to align. So with that, I'd like to welcome our guests to the show. Lori, we'll start with you with introductions, and then Jesse, I'd love to pass the mic to you after Lori's done with her intro. Okay, Lori, welcome.
Thanks, Lori. Good to be back. And I am still over at NatureSweet as the vice president of marketing.
Great. Welcome. And Jesse?
Yeah. So my name is Jesse Appleman, and I work at Fair Trade USA as the head of our fresh goods department. We certify all sorts of products here at Fair Trade, and my world includes our produce, floral, and seafood categories.
Awesome. Okay. So Lori, we are celebrating. This is a big deal. I mean, NatureSweet has always had goodness inside. You've always been committed to a level of stewardship with your product lines. It's one reason I love your brand. It's so much more than the delicious tomatoes that we've all come to love and appreciate it. There's so much more behind the NatureSweet brand. Tell us more about this fair trade initiative and your partnership with Walmart. Help everyone understand the impact of what you all are building today.
You bet. So, Lori, we've talked about it before actually on the show, that at NatureSweet, our commitment is really to transform the lives of agricultural workers in North America, no matter what. And so really partnering with Walmart on providing consumers fair trade certified produce fell right in line with our commitment to not only our associates, but our continued practices of changing the standards within the agricultural industry. The commitment to fair trade really augments our already long-standing relationship with other organizations like EFI and these two organizations, really now with fair trade are our way of taking much more of a 360 approach to our entire ecosystem that will help not only monitor, but also maintain, the fair working conditions, elevated safety modules, and educational opportunities to NatureSweet associates, because we still believe in, working hard and giving it our all. And these are really the principles behind everything we do.
Yeah, it is so true. And, Jesse, let's define for our listeners today. I mean, what is fair trade? What does it mean to be fair trade certified? Why are we celebrating this on the podcast? Because it's a huge deal. It's a huge commitment. So please help our listeners understand what all is behind that emblem that they see on their packaged goods.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a great question. Fair Trade USA is a nonprofit organization. We're based out in Oakland, California, and we are the leading certifier of fair trade products in the North American market. So our work is really about promoting sustainable livelihoods for workers and small producers across agriculture, fishing, and factory settings. And then when you're talking about that fair trade label on a product, what does that actually mean? It really means two things. The first is that it means that that farm or factory that produced that product is being regularly inspected against our standards. That covers social practices, economic practices, also environmental practices at the farm level. And it means that they've passed that inspection and earned that fair trade certification. And then the other piece that I think, not as many people are aware of, but I think is kind of the heart of our program, is that for every product that's sold with that fair trade label on it, a portion of that price is going to go back directly to the workers on that farm into this special fund. And the workers then get to decide and vote on how that money is invested in projects to address the greatest needs of their communities, whatever those needs are. So that could be anything from scholarships to help send their kids to school, to home improvements, to access to medical and dental services, the list goes on. So if you see that Fair Trade Certified label on a product, you know that you're supporting the producers who have those best practices, and also that your purchase is giving back directly to the communities that grew the product.
Yeah, I love that. And just to emphasize to everyone, the workers themselves get to vote on how that fund is used.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Elaborate on that a little bit, Jesse, because it's not like Lori and her team at NatureSweet can identify, like they have really no voice in how that fund is used. The farm workers are empowered with that decision.
Right. And that's really core to our model. The idea is that it's those people who are going to benefit from the fund or from the project. They're the ones who best understand what is their situation, what is their community like, what are the needs there, and then what is going to be a solution that really addresses that. So they own that money, that extra fund. It doesn't go to the farm management. It goes to an account that's owned by those workers, and then they work with our team to go through this process of first thinking about what are the needs in our community, right? Do we have a lack of access to healthcare? Is the only school 10 miles away and there's no bus, so the workers' kids can't get there? Is there no running water in our community? What are those biggest issues? And then we work with them to figure out, okay, here's how much money you have to work with from this fund. Let's figure out how to prioritize and pick some projects that are really going to address those needs. And it's the workers themselves who both propose those projects, put forward those ideas, and then that whole workforce is going to vote on those project ideas that were put forward, and really they are the decision makers in where that money goes.
Yeah, democratic process, and the project with the most votes is where the money goes.
Exactly.
Yeah, amazing. You mentioned in your remarks, you touched on the standards being social, economic, and environmental standards. I'd love to go a little bit deeper into what that actually means for the folks with us today.
Yep. Yeah. So our standards are, I think it's about an 80-page document. So there is a huge amount of detail and complexity that's covered there. It really covers a huge range of economic, social, environmental practices on the farm. I think some great examples that kind of give you an idea of what we're trying to accomplish with those standards are things like ensuring safe and responsible working conditions. So making sure that workers have safe housing if there's housing on the farm, that they get rest and meal breaks, that they get the paid sick and maternity leave that the law says they're entitled to. Obviously, we're making sure that there's no child labor. Wages need to be paid on time. And I think something that's really important is transparency in contracts and hiring. So workers understand what are their rights under the law, how is their pay calculated, what are they entitled to in terms of conditions and benefits, and that there are clear procedures in place so that they know what to do if those things aren't the case.
Yep. Very good. Thank you. And one other thing, as we talked about the fund, let's follow the money here for a little bit and help folks understand where that fund even comes from. The fund is actually, and Jesse, by all means, please elaborate on what I'm about to say here, but there is a small premium that is put on the price of goods at the point of sale. In other words, like we're talking fractions of a penny, maybe a penny, that's added to a few cents, that's added to the product that, folks like us are purchasing when we shop at Walmart or other grocers. And then, so it's actually the shopper that's paying the premium. And then that premium, those pennies, they add up, and they add up to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, eventually millions of dollars.
Yep.
And that money, those pennies that each of the produce shoppers that choose fair trade products, fair trade certified products, that money is pooled together to create this fund that Jesse was talking about. And that fund, I mean, you can do so much when it's really many ships raise the tide. There's so many adages here that apply, but Jesse, by all means, feel free to elaborate if you'd like, to help people understand exactly how they can follow the money and how this fund is created. Yeah.
So I think you just explained it better than I ever could have. I'm going to try to steal that for next time I have to talk about this, but So like you said, that fund is, it's set at that product level in terms of how many cents per pound are designated for each product. So if you're talking about tomatoes, it depends on the variety of tomato, but it's going to be, 2, 3, 4, 5 cents per pound. So for every pound of tomatoes that gets sold with that fair trade labeled on it, there is a specific number of cents for each pound that is going to get designated and go back to the special fund. And, that's part of our certification and inspection process, is following that money, right? To make sure that based on that volume that got sold, that the right amount is going back to that special fund. And like you said, for a few cents, an amount that when you're shopping in the store, you probably never notice. When you multiply that by the tremendous number of pounds that are getting sold in the fair trade program, you see farms that are generating, like you said, tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in these funds every year. So the impact can be really tremendous and life-changing. And, if I have time to give a quick example.
Of course you have time. Yes, this is your show.
Well, one of the examples of this that is, has been most exciting in all my time working at Fair Trade, we work with one of the farms that's been in the program for a long time in northern Mexico, an asparagus farm. Like many farms in northern Mexico, their workers are migrant workers. So that means that, they come for that harvest season, a few months or however long it is, from villages throughout central and southern Mexico, often, very low income areas, rural communities, indigenous communities. So a lot of the needs, when we're thinking about what are the needs of these workers, a lot of those, most important needs are actually back in those home communities as opposed to wherever the farm is that they're working during the season. So at this farm, there was a community that a large number of workers were coming from in Veracruz state in Mexico that had no access to running water. So the way they got water in this village is that the women in the village, and it was specifically the women who were doing this, would basically hike several hours with buckets to a river, fill them up, and then hike them back to the village. That was the only way they could get any water in the village. So that need was identified. And then through our process, we helped them find local contractors and NGOs to basically put that fair trade money to work, installing a pump system and bringing running water into that community. And it's not just like a central spigot or something. They actually got running water into every home in the community. So they went from, hiking 2 hours with buckets for every drop of water they need to literally having that sink in the faucet in everybody's house. So that's just an example that, that's what keeps me excited about this work and energized after all these years.
Yeah, I'd say so. What an amazing story. Thank you for sharing. Lori, with that, I'd love to bring you back on with our audience now. And I mean, I think it kind of, listening to Jesse and understanding the purpose and the mission behind fair trade and the empowerment that it lends, it's almost like self-explanatory why this would be important. But I do want you to have a chance to come on and share with everyone, why is this important to NatureSweet? Because as any shopper knows, not every product in the grocery store is certified fair trade, no matter how, I don't think it's like, how could you disagree with what he just said, right? But there's a huge commitment here by NatureSweet. And why are you guys making it?
So one, thanks for the opportunity, Jesse. That's a great story because, I think the importance of that, not just story, but the overall, NatureSweet cares, our associates care. We care about, their safety, their food safety, right? Top quality and being able to get the best tasting products out of our greenhouses every day to families across, all North America, really. it is still such a priority. And it's just kind of the, going back to the points that Jesse made about the conditions, the benefits, the transparency. That's why we do what we do with, the food safety, with the surety of supply, with all of those elements that are just I'd say intertwined in our story just naturally, right? So our associates are really, really why and how we get to do amazing things, with the benefit being an excellent tasting tomato, because they are really the ones that nurture, protect the tomatoes while they're growing, picking and packing and all that stuff. But it's by partnering with, associations like Fair Trade and with Walmart, we're able to reinforce our commitment to our associates for the work that they do, as well as reinforce the commitment to transforming, how we started this with transforming the lives of agricultural workers in North America. It really is in line. It just goes so well together with our general business practices to safeguard all of our associates, and we're fortunate that because we're greenhouse grown, we have year-round employment, and they're able, our associates are able to supply for their families and their communities without ever missing, seasonality or anything like that. And so I think I know it's important to NatureSweet to become certified, again, just to reinforce with consumers that this is really where we, we can walk the walk and talk the talk.
That's right. Yep. And so this means a lot for shoppers and moms that are, all the other produce moms out there buying their groceries at Walmart. This is a huge announcement. So help folks understand, why this is so important. Like, what should people know now when they're purchasing their tomatoes from NatureSweet at Walmart? Lori, we'll start with you on this. And then Jesse, I'd love for you to share some remarks too.
You got it. I think with NatureSweet, with Fair Trade, and with Walmart, who is, definitely an industry giant, I'd say, someone who can really, really impact at the forefront. It's a stamp of reinsurance that we're all in this together, that we continue to push the industry and elevate standards, and that we do have a focus and will continue to focus on social and environmental responsibility in produce.
That's right. Because market access is so important, which is why I'm glad you brought that up with Walmart being such a giant. I mean, we can have all these initiatives and programs that we want through in the supply chain, but if a retailer is not putting them on shelf and not committing to selling the product that includes that, the pennies of the premium price, that these programs they're just ideas. They're not programs, or they're just pipe dreams. So that market access and the participation at grocery retail and the commitment from Walmart definitely deserves, a great amount of gratitude. They are a catalyst. They are a keeper of so many of the keys as it relates to our ability to grow important initiatives like this. So with that, Jesse, any remarks that you'd like to say for folks when they are shopping for their NatureSweet tomatoes at Walmart, knowing that this program's now been launched?
Yeah, so I think, it's really exciting because it's such an easy way for consumers who want to do good with their purchases to find an easy way to do that, right? You can see that Fair Trade label, choose that product, and it's a way to vote with your dollars and send that message to the industry that you're going to, reward those best practices and that the practices in the supply chain are important to you and that giving back to communities is important to you. So obviously with NatureSweet and Walmart supporting this new launch, that means a heck of a lot more Fair Trade product available to a lot more people. So having that option available in more places where more people shop makes it easier for consumers who we already know care about this to help send that message to the industry and send their dollars that way.
Yeah. I mean, there's no one bigger than Walmart and when really at the end of the day, there's nothing more important than initiatives like this that are, as Lori put it, transforming the lives of those who work in the agricultural industry. And that is exactly what Fair Trade is all about. So with that, we do have a really fun question next. It actually came through social media. So Fair Trade USA and NatureSweet, in preparation for today's episode, they put a little, like a crowdsourcing opportunity. Their Instagram fans were able to provide a question for today's podcast. And I'd like to read that question to you both now. And again, we'll let you both have an opportunity to answer this. Lori, we'll start with you and then Jesse. So a question from your Instagram fans. How does Fair Trade certified produce differ from uncertified produce? Specifically, how is it grown, harvested, and shipped?
I'll take a stab, and then Jesse, you can maybe jump in, after. I think the biggest difference was a lot of what just that story and having of getting water back to the communities and what that really means, what the difference in how it's grown and cared for really comes back to the associates. I think and the freedom that they have in order to not only just, kind of using the pun, reap what they sow, but all of the dollars that are, given back to the community, they have a right and a say in what that's going to do for not only them, their families, and their communities, with that being raised.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. And I think, thinking from my own perspective, I think anyone working in a job, right, if you feel safe, if you feel respected and empowered by your employer, if you feel, dignified in your work, and especially if you know that your family and your community are going to benefit directly from the work you're doing and those products you're creating, I think anyone in that situation is going to feel more invested in their work and in the quality of their work, and is going to be more likely to put that extra level of attention to the quality of whatever they're creating, right? Whether it's, me at my computer in my home here, or someone harvesting or packing a tomato. So I think that difference when you're thinking about how is Fair Trade certified produce different, it's about those people behind the product. It's about their well-being and their livelihoods. And knowing that when you see that label, you know that those people behind the product have that highest standard of working conditions and that direct benefit going back to their communities. And I think that kind of filters into the product and into the whole supply chain.
Yeah. Yeah. That 80-page standards document you were talking about. So it's good assurance for everyone to know that their dollars are going for good. And my goodness, what an amazing episode this has been. I love talking about sustainability, and, sustainability is one of those wide net terms that I think is almost abstract in the way folks understand. And this is 100% sustainability, and you can contribute to the improvement of the agricultural supply chain and the advancement of our industry's sustainability by purchasing these Fair Trade certified NatureSweet tomatoes at Walmart. You as a consumer, you have the power to improve our supply chain simply by buying these tomatoes. So with that, I can't thank you all enough. Jesse, Lori, thank you for being part of this episode, and thank you for the great partnership. I'm a huge fan of Fair Trade. I had the opportunity to, I actually went to a farm I was a member of a United Fresh leadership program, and
awesome.
One of our modules, we got to go to, farms all over North America and Mexico. And I went to Baja Sur, Mexico, and visited a Fair Trade farm, interviewed some of the workers, and just got a grander appreciation for what you all are doing and what this episode is all about. So thank you again. And I hope everyone with us today really does seek out these Fair Trade USA certified NatureSweet tomatoes at Walmart. That it is something that I look forward to purchasing, and we look forward to promoting them at the Produce Moms as well. And with that, Jesse, I'd like to invite you for any closing remarks, and then Lori will have you sign us off from the show. So Jesse?
All right. Well, thanks so much for having us, Lori. Really appreciate this opportunity. And yeah, I think to close, I would just reiterate that, we all want to do good with our purchases, and it can be so overwhelming to figure out how to do that, right? How to put that into action. So looking, when you see those Fair Trade NatureSweet tomatoes at Walmart or other Fair Trade products elsewhere, it's an easy way to feel good about where you're putting your dollars. And I would say also, if you don't see that label where you shop, ask the store why and tell them it's important to you, because that's how we're going to get more demand for Fair Trade products, and we're going to get more farms and more workers into that program and seeing those benefits across the industry.
Yeah. And so Lori, again, thanks again for the opportunity. I think I signed off in a similar fashion. I just am so proud of us as a company with NatureSweet always having priorities of health and safety with our associates. The fact that, I think that this was written in the stars a long time ago, and we're making it official with Fair Trade and with Walmart, because we didn't have to adjust too much to ensure those 80 pages of guidelines and principles were met. We have been able to maintain a lot of our just standard practices. It just makes me super happy, proud, and joyous to work for such a great company with NatureSweet. And I can't wait for all of our consumers, like Jesse said, to vote with their wallets at Walmart and really, really make it's a great way to make a big impact in an entire industry. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Produce Moms Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a featured guest, just send an email to Lori@theproducemoms.com. We know there is a produce mom in you because there's a produce mom in all of us. Join our community on Facebook and all social platforms. Help us change the way America eats. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.